Now at 9, even after months, Caney, Kansas is still facing a water shortage. We'll see how residents are impacted. Plus, in honor of National Suicide Prevention Month, the Ozark Center in Joplin explains some warning signs to watch out for. And students in McDonald County, Missouri get a hands-on lesson building tiny homes.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Tanya Bach. The community of Caney, Kansas is still facing a severe water shortage. In the last 2 months, the city has been in stage 3 emergency, representing the most critical level on the severity scale. KOAM's Fernanda Silva has an update on the story.
It was no secret to Blake Vargas, superintendent of Caney's schools, that the academic year would start like it did, with a water shortage and little rain.
We haven't received the rainfall that we had hoped. It seems like most of the time it's right on the edge.
While it affects students, Vargas says that they are already used to it.
First time this came out, there was definitely some tough transition, but since we've been through it, we know what we need to do, and what we've realized is that it takes all of us doing our part.
With residents still being restricted to using water only for essential activities, the school athletes and facilities are also dealing with the shortage.
Our main field, we still do water just from a safety standpoint to make sure that we're having a surface that doesn't increase the likelihood of like a concussion. But again, all of our auxiliary, the practice, all those, there's no watering taking place on that.
The school facilities are not the only places not receiving enough water in Caney. Car washes, pools, and other non-essential activities remain closed. The city's plan was to treat the pool water and send it to the water reservoir for use by residents. But they didn't proceed with the idea because of a Kansas Department of Health and Environment recommendation.
That was chlorinated water that, we'd have to dechlorinate it and then probably treat it, run it through the treatment plant again. It would have taken some 40 truckloads to haul that. So, that's only a half a day's use for the city of Caney.
Now the city's counting on the nature's helping hands to have enough water until the next rain comes.
It's kind of your enemy, log jams and beaver dams, and they have actually been an ally to our water situation in letting the water flow slowly so it doesn't rush the dam and just shoot over the top of the dam. And then it drops the level, and then as we draw it down, there's nothing behind it. So it's really worked in quite a way nicely for our benefit.
In Caney, Fernanda Silva, KOAM News.
Well, Kelly also says because of the recent rain, they did not need to release water from Timber Hill as planned before. Well, Chief Meteorologist Doug Heddy joins us with the first look at our forecast.
Well, it turned out to be another great day for us today. Temperatures pretty good. They were warm. 88 for a high, started at 60. 78 is where we should be topping out. 93 is the record, so we're only 5 degrees off of the record high on this date. Let's go outside. 76 in Nevada, 72 in Monette. Grand Lake 72, Pittsburgh 74. Chanute is sitting at 76 degrees. Not much going on. We had a few little tiny sprinkles in our northern counties earlier. These have pretty much fallen apart, but we could get a few more random sprinkles, random showers as we go into tomorrow. There's a little bit of a front that's kind of draped between us and Kansas City. Through the night, 71 by 11, down to 62, back to 74 by 10 a.m. We'll talk about those little rain chances here in just a little bit.
All right, thanks, Doug. September is National Suicide Prevention Month, so we spoke with the Assistant Director of the Crisis Center at Ozark Center, Stephen McCullough, about warning signs you can look for in loved ones. He says a big one is withdrawing from their usual activities. He also says the best way to prevent suicide is to connect and talk about it.
The best way to prevent it is to talk about it, because then when we talk about it, we can get a lot of those misunderstandings out in the open. We can make sure we get them connected to people who can help them and get them further care.
If you are experiencing any suicidal thoughts, there is a national hotline that may be able to help. That number, 988. The remains of a World War II soldier who had been at a Japanese prisoner of war camp will soon be laid to rest in Jay, Oklahoma. Army Private First Class and POW Lex Lee Lillard will be interred October 7th in the Quogue Family Cemetery. PFC Lillard was one of the many POWs subjected to the 65-mile Bataan Death March. His remains were identified using circumstantial evidence as well as DNA analysis. PFC Lillard died in July of 1942. He was 20 years old. Firefighters responded to a geyser of oil that spouted in northwestern Oklahoma City yesterday morning. A pipeline company digging in the area hit a 16-inch oil pipeline. The pipeline company finally managed to shut off the oil flow after 92,000 gallons of oil spilled out near a residential area. Construction crews built dams out of dirt and sandbags in order to stop and redirect the oil from the geyser. Well, students at McDonald County High School began the process of building a fully functional tiny home. KOAM's Miranda Burton has the story.
At McDonald County High School, educators are intentional about equipping their students with real-world experience through trade skills. Though the students are only now constructing the rafters, their tiny home is set to be complete by the end of the school year.
To take a project with kids that are green, a few of them, have some knowledge, to get them through this project to the point that it's finished, and they can step back and say it's theirs.
The construction trades program ensures students learn carpentry work as well as plumbing and electrical work. Students are responding to the challenge with enthusiasm as they consider where these skills could take them from here.
When I joined, I actually started to enjoy it. I like the hands-on, I like learning, I like working with my teammates, and I just got really into carpentry and then masonry. And this year I want to do electricity, STEM out.
Definitely just the whole experience of getting to build a house. Not a lot of high schoolers can say they've built a home with their hands.
Through this experience, some students are expressing interest in continuing their trade education after high school.
It's been very fun. I've learned a lot. Kaufman's taught me a lot. I plan to do something, go into a trade school after I get out of this school.
Reporting from McDonald County, this is Miranda Burton, KOAM News.
The students began construction of the first week of school and spend 3 hours every school day in the shop to make sure their project is completed. Well, coming up, COVID's long-term effect.
The CDC releases a new report on the lingering effects of COVID as cases continue to spike. I'm Mike Emanuel in Washington. I've got the details coming up.
The CDC issues new data showing COVID may not be done causing damage even after it leaves your body. Fox News Chief Washington correspondent Mike Emanuel has more from Washington.
As the spike in COVID cases accelerates, we're learning more about the effects of the virus after it's left our systems. The CDC releasing new data on Tuesday showing some 18 million adults, about 7% of the population, suffered from long COVID effects, including fatigue, shortness of breath, and cognitive impairment. Women were more than twice as likely to have long COVID than men, and those who had more severe infections were at higher risk.
Long COVID can occur after any COVID case, including mild COVID cases, but the risk seems to go up with severe COVID.
Health officials say the best way to avoid those severe infections is by staying up to date with vaccines. And they're now urging the public to roll up their sleeves for the latest booster, despite a growing sense of vaccine fatigue across the country.
It's my sixth one, and I just think it's going to be a yearly thing where we all have to just adjust to the new strain. It's going to be like the flu.
But getting those shots could be difficult. Pharmacies have been complaining about supply shortages since the booster was rolled out. And there's growing confusion about which insurance companies are willing to cover the vaccine.
HHS, as you know, is working with insurance plans and pharmacies to resolve this quickly. Look, it's a top priority for this administration to ensure that everyone can access this updated vaccine.
And the White House is also bringing back free COVID tests ahead of a potential winter surge. You can order those online at covid.gov. In Washington, Mike Emanuel, Fox News.
Well, high blood pressure in late adolescence is associated with an increased risk for major cardiovascular events later in life. Researchers tracking more than 1 million Swedish men for up to 50 years found the risk for a major cardiac event such as heart attack or stroke, was elevated if they had a blood pressure reading of 120 over 80, or even a higher reading when they were 18 years old. All of those forms you fill out at the doctor's office could lead to inaccurately reported health conditions. Researchers found repetitive screening questions could decrease the accuracy of patient responses. The authors of the study found compromised accuracy in anxiety and depression screenings in people who were newly diagnosed. They say one explanation may be the repetitive questions chipping away at the information patients report about themselves. Well, Doug is next with a complete look at the forecast. And later, Pitt State volleyball is back home, looking to get back into the win column against Central Missouri. We'll have the highlights.
Well, it turned out to be a nice one for us today. Temperatures warm into the upper 80s to near 90. Some of our western counties did get into lower 90s for highs, but we look pretty good right now. We have mostly clear skies. Here's a nice shot. Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. Of course, it's fall. Doesn't really feel like it outside, but fall foliage. So if we look at our forecast, and this takes on average per year. Of course, it varies a little bit depending on rain and stuff like that. But September 27th, so roughly about this point in time, we start to see a little bit of changes in northwest Arkansas where the Ozarks are. And then as we go week to week, so here in a couple weeks, we have patchy foliage. And then here in about 3 weeks to 4 weeks, we start to approach our peak the last week of October into the first week of November. So a lot of changes very quickly. All right, temperatures right now, we're sitting mainly into the mid 70s across the region, and it looks like we'll drop back lower 60s a little bit later on tonight. Visibility is good, 10 miles an hour, south winds at about 5 to 10. Through the overnight hours, we drop back lower 60s and then back to 73 by 10 o'clock in the morning. We had a couple little sprinkles kind of drop through our northern counties earlier this evening. Not much for us right now, but we do have a weak front draped across Kansas and Oklahoma. That front's going to kind of hang out on top of us as we go through the next day or so, so that could fire off a random shower or two as this upper level low spins across the Great Lakes. But if we look out west, not a whole bunch going on. So that's in general our weather as we go through the next several days. Let me walk you through time. Here comes this front, slides in. Here's 5 o'clock in the morning, a few clouds, mid 60s. As we go through the morning, the front just kind of hangs out. You can see some clouds, a random pop-up shower, a few sprinkles. This late morning into the early afternoon. As we go into the afternoon, still some clouds and a random shower. Temperatures mainly mid to upper 80s to near 90 degrees. Very similar to what we have had over the past couple days. Tomorrow evening, the clouds start to break, and then by Thursday morning, the front will start to lift to the north. We get southerly winds back, and our weather stays pretty much the same into the upper 80s. We start mid 60s on Thursday. Once we get into Thursday afternoon, much of the same, upper 80s to near 90 degrees. So very consistent as we go through the next couple days. 86 tomorrow, again, random little sprinkle or shower. 88 Thursday, 87 on Friday. The warm weather sticks around all the way into the weekend. Really no good rain chances till the middle of next week. We're going to talk more about that in our second half hour.
I'm ready for a whole week of temperatures in the 70s.
Yeah, got a little ways to go.
Yeah. You bumped up that Thursday where it's supposed to be in the 70s.
No?
See the change. You had one lower. It was getting lower. No?
In 2 days?
I thought the end of the 10-day yesterday showed like one at 78.
It's 10 days away. It's going to vary a degree too.
I'm watching that. That was my light at the end of the tunnel, Doug.
There you go.
I'm keeping an eye on that.
All righty.
All right. Well, coming up, President Biden on the picket line.
It's day 12 of the UAW strike, and today workers got a boost from Washington. I'm Edward Lawrence in Wayne County, Michigan, with a historic visit coming up.
The Federal Trade Commission is suing Amazon, claiming the online retail giant has an illegal monopoly of power. The FTC, along with the attorney generals in 17 states, claim Amazon uses its position to inflate prices on other online platforms, stifle competition, and overcharge sellers. The FTC is asking the court to issue a permanent injunction that would loosen Amazon's, quote, monopolistic control to restore competition. The strike by members of the United Auto Workers is deep into its second week. Today, their effort got a boost of support from President Biden. Fox Business correspondent Edward Lawrence is in Wayne County, Michigan, with the latest on his visit.
President Biden making history, becoming the first sitting president to walk a picket line with a union in modern time.
Stick with it, because you deserve the significant raise you need and other benefits. Let's get it! Let's get back what we lost, okay?
The president's appearance in Michigan, an effort to show solidarity with union members who, at day 12, remain locked in an escalating dispute with America's three biggest car makers. Strikers are calling for better benefits and increased pay. Auto companies say their demands are too much.
Numbers don't lie, right? If inflation went up 29%, why are you trying to offer us 19, 20, and 21%? You know, it just doesn't make sense. And you offered your CEOs 40. That's not okay. We build these cars that the management's driving right now, you know.
Republicans, meantime, are critical of the president, saying it's his economic policies that led to the strike.
A picket line that he created, the subsidized electric cars that are putting them out of business and sending their jobs overseas.
But the White House says it's the president's policies that are bolstering the economy.
He believes that there could be a win-win agreement here, but he's always going to stand on the side of workers, always.
Wednesday, former President Trump is scheduled to visit Detroit and talk with auto workers to make his own pitch for the rank and file. In Wayne County, Michigan, Edward Lawrence, Fox Business.
Well, video game voice actors and motion capture performers have voted to authorize a strike if labor negotiation talks with gaming companies fail. The union representing them, SAG-AFTRA, is also representing thousands of Hollywood actors who walked off the job more than 2 months ago. This all comes as the Writers Guild of America reached a tentative deal towards a new contract following a nearly 5-month-long strike. Up next, one of the Tulsa Zoo's newest members finally gets her name. We're going to tell you the special meaning behind it. Yesterday was National Daughters Day, so the Tulsa Zoo celebrated. The zoo unveiled the name of this 2-month-old giraffe. It's Mina, which means first daughter. The zoo says the Osage Nation named the little cutie, who's not actually that little. She's 215 pounds and already more than 7 feet tall. Mina. 30 more minutes of news, weather, and sports is coming your way. Community members and Carthage city leaders take sides on the proposed removal of the Carthage Water and Electric Plant Board. Plus, the clock is ticking for lawmakers to come to a deal to avoid a government shutdown. We'll check out the latest negotiations. Carthage City Council tonight approved new protections for the Water and Electric Plant Board. KOAM's Amber Jenkins has more on those protections and community reaction.
The Carthage City Council considers giving Carthage Water and Electric Plant Board members the same protections as city officials.
Estimated that position is similar in ranking to the department head. So as part of the negotiations of earlier in the summer, that's something that I agreed to bring before the council as far as providing them with similar protections.
If a board member is requested to resign, they have the right to a hearing and a written cause if the council approves. Along with these protections, the mayor is appointing 2 new members to the board. However, some community members question motives.
Now this happened, it makes you wonder what their real motive is. I think there are some other motives. There may be a couple of people who have a vendetta of some kind against CWNEP.
By granting more protections, the city officials believe that this will mend the relationship between Carthage Water and Electric Plant. Some community members believe that this is a step in the right direction.
Provides them a little additional protection than they have now, and hopefully would give a little peace of mind that, you know, they've got right to a hearing.
Basically, there were no reasons given when they were terminated before, and this would provide them the protection of, as you say, having a trial, listing allegations against them. It would basically give them the same protections of termination that any other city official has.
If y'all don't like me, that's fine. I'm being as transparent as I can be.
Most of the discourse comes from the mayor appointing 2 new members to the CWEP board rather than granting the board of protections. Reporting in Carthage, Amber Jenkins, KOAM News.
The protections were approved by a vote of 8-2. Next council meeting, the council and CWEP will agree to a date and time to hold a public discussion and explain to the community what's been going on between them. Well, a judge today ruled that Donald Trump committed fraud for years while building his real estate empire. The ruling in a civil lawsuit brought by New York's Attorney General found the former president and his company deceived banks, insurers, and others by massively overvaluing his assets and exaggerating his net worth on paperwork used in making deals and securing financing. The judge ordered that some of Trump's business licenses be rescinded as punishment, making it difficult or impossible for those businesses to operate in New York. Well, the House Oversight Committee has announced witnesses for its first hearing this week in its impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. The Thursday hearing will focus on constitutional and legal questions. Witnesses will include former Assistant Attorney General Eileen O'Connor, George Washington University Law School professor Jonathan Turley, and forensic accounting expert. And none of them appear to have direct knowledge of the allegations against the president. Well, it is crunch time, a make-or-break moment in Speaker Kevin McCarthy's efforts to win over hardline Republicans threatening to block attempts to fund the government. The Senate, however, is rolling up its sleeves towards a short-term fix to keep the funding flowing. Fox News correspondent Madeline Rivera has the story from Washington.
As the prospects of House Republicans reaching a compromise dim, the Senate is hammering out a plan to keep the government's lights on.
We'll continue to fund the government at present levels while maintaining our commitment to Ukraine's security and humanitarian needs.
Regardless, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is not committing to putting the Senate's proposal to the floor. Instead, McCarthy is trying to win over hardliners to pass a short-term funding bill that includes border security. He's blaming the president for the problem.
If he is willing to take some actions, to even sit down with us, to make some changes along that border, we can keep government open while we finish the funding.
But that package would likely be dead on arrival in the Democratic-controlled Senate. The White House is urging McCarthy to honor the agreement they made on spending levels earlier this year.
It's up to the speaker to twist in the wind. I mean, seriously, this is a deal is a deal.
If the government shuts down, paychecks will be delayed for hundreds of thousands of federal workers and law enforcement officials. Moody's says America's credit rating will also be negatively impacted. In Washington, Madeline Rivera, Fox News.
Well, a bit later, why China is asking the Washington National Zoo to return the giant pandas it loaned to the zoo.
Well, of course, it turned out to be a nice one for us today. It was warm. We went all the way up into the upper 80s for afternoon highs. Quite a bit of sunshine, and we're still mild right now at 76 Nevada, Carthage at 74, 72, Bella Vista 69 at Jay, Chanute is sitting at 76. Let's go outside. Here's 7th, here's range line. Feels like 74. It is 74. Visibility is 10 miles. South winds at about 5 to 10. Through the rest of your night, we are going to be in and out of some clouds, but overall it looks pretty good. 71 here shortly, 62 for a low, rebounding back to 73 by 10 a.m. All right, you can see we had a couple quick little showers that skirted through our northern counties. Besides that, we look pretty good. We got some thunderstorms near St. Louis, also a few west of Wichita, and this is due to this upper level low. There's a little bit of a weak front kind of draped across, and it's going to hang out near us as we go through the next 24 hours, giving us some clouds and a random shower. Besides that, if you look out west, there's not a whole bunch going on, so that's our weather as we go through the next few days. All right, let me take you through time. Here comes this weak front sinking in by morning. So a few clouds with it. We're sitting into the low to mid 60s. Look at the front tomorrow. By the noon hour, just kind of hangs out. So a couple little showers trying to pop up as we go through the afternoon. The front still hangs out. Temperatures maybe a notch or two cooler than what we saw today, just due to the cloud cover that we're going to have across the region. As we go into tomorrow evening, the clouds start to break up. And then by tomorrow night, our front lifts back toward the north for Thursday morning. Southerly winds return. We start into the mid 60s. And then by the time we get into the afternoon, right back up into the upper 80s for highs on Thursday afternoon. Here's your day planner for you. 62 to start, 80 by noon, 85 by 4, high of 86. Again, random sprinkle or a random shower. Let's go down the road. The reason we don't have any big storm systems moving in is due to high pressure, really in charge all the way into the weekend. Here's Saturday. Let's go into early next week. It still sits here, so it keeps all the rain out of here. Once we get into late next week, it breaks down. We get a wave that comes out, so this is next Wednesday, at least giving us some chances for rain, and then it kind of reloads again back in the Pacific Northwest. You can also see the jet streams getting stronger as we move into October. So that's when our pattern will start to pick back up just a little bit. Until then, we look pretty nice. 86 tomorrow, 88 on Thursday. Let's go 87 Friday, 88 as we go through the weekend, and early next week, mid to upper 80s. Cooling down a little bit late next week. Also some chances for showers and thunderstorms returning by that point in time.
All right, well, can't complain about decent weather, I guess.
No,
so,
it looks pretty good.
Yeah, a little warmer than I'd like, but
I know.
We'll take it. Fall will get here, and then it'll
will.
be too cold. All right, thanks, Doug.
You bet.
Well, businesses in Kansas City are seeing a boost in sales and getting creative when it comes to Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift's romance. Grace Smith has more on how shops are capitalizing on swells.
Well, when Taylor Swift was spotted at the Chiefs game on Sunday, they immediately got to work here at Dulce Bakery in Prairie Village.
We have to capitalize on this. Our two favorite things in the whole world are in one place.
Day Zamora created these heart-shaped cakes for the lovers.
They come in vanilla and chocolate.
One says Travis Swift, 87 plus 13, and of course, in our Chiefs era.
He's in demand, and so is she.
Over at Rally House, store manager Aaron Lewis says the Swifties have shown up, and this time asking for another kind of red.
We've had quite a few fans, Swifties as you call them, come in looking to see if we have any like Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce stuff.
Lewis says within hours, sales went through the roof.
Yesterday, he was my #1 selling jersey.
Others are putting their money towards other things.
I just bet my mom $10 last night that they weren't going to last through the season, but I'm here for it.
I know it's not going to last. He too flamboyant.
But as for Zamora, he says they're just trying to spread the love. And what better way to do that than with a cake?
And our main sell for this is just joy. We want you to eat cake, smile, be happy.
If he's happy, I'm happy. If it's going to help him score, let's go Chiefs!
We'll take it. Coming up in sports, Webb City softball tries to get its 6th win in a row. Plus, Pitt State volleyball hosts the #20 team in the country this evening. John Dales has highlights from that match and more up next.
Pitt State volleyball back at home tonight. The Gorillas opened conference play 2 weeks ago. In that contest, they easily dispatched of Newman in straight sets. They went on the road for the next 3 matches since then and went 1-2. One of those losses being a sweep at the hands of Central Oklahoma, who they play again tonight. Pitt State hoping for an upset. First set, Gorillas down 11-1 when Seville Gates gets the kill and sparks some life into the team. PSU gets within single digits of UCO, the #20 team in the country. But the Broncos on this spike, Micaiah Purdue, take a 17-6 lead. They win both the first set and the second. So backs against the wall for the Gorillas. They win 3 points in a row in the third set, entering this serve from Kate Bandry. And then Vix Violet elevates for the kill here. PSU takes a 6-5 lead. But the Broncos, they just had the answer all night long. And here, Gorillas trying to set something up, but a big-time kill right at the net, and the Broncos win the third set 25-16. UCO sweeps Pitt State for the second time this season. The Gorillas fall to 6-7. District playoffs just 2.5 weeks away for Missouri high school softball. Now's the time when you want to be hitting your stride. Webb City is doing that. Entering this evening, the Cardinals have a 5-game winning streak. At home this evening, taking on Ozark. In the first inning, trouble right away for Cardinals starting pitcher Addie Burns. First, this double off the bat of Audrey Carlton puts the Tigers on the board first. Later in the inning, bases loaded, and this is going to clear them. A 3 RBI double for Kaylee Lineber makes it 4-0 Tigers in just the first inning. Now, Webb City also struggles at the plate early against Ozark starter Kendall McCoy. First the strikeout swinging there, then another one. 4-0 after 1 inning, Ozark on top. To the top of the third, same score, and Lily Hall gives the Cardinals their first hit with this single right back up the middle. Next batter, pinch runner Rylan McFarland tries to steal second, and she gets cut down, thrown out at second. That kind of day for Webb City. Ozark wins 13-6, ending the Cardinals' winning streak. Meanwhile, Carl Junction hosting Carthage in another COC battle. The Bulldogs get the emphatic win on senior night, 12-4. The final score. It's the second victory for CJ in the month of September and the first in September 9th. Carthage now has lost 2 in a row this week. Tigers back at it on the road at Republic this Thursday. And Neosho takes down Joplin 4-3 in a really tight contest. Carly Kinnard outstanding for the Wildcats. In the circle, she pitches a complete game, gets the win, only allowing 1 earned run and striking out 9 Eagles batters. She also gets it done at the plate, hitting a home run. And Neosho 21-5 and has won 10 straight. And it's getting to that point in the year where teams are really starting to put it together. Neosho is one of them. 10-game winning streak. You have your starting pitcher hit a home run for you and throw 7 innings. There's a lot of really good teams right now.
Carl Junction being senior night, did they have a pretty strong senior class too?
Yeah. And also the way that they show out for their seniors too, because they had lost a lot in a row entering this game. That's a good Carthage team they played too. To get the win on senior night over a conference rival, really big.
That's good for them. All right. Well, good job to all the girls out there. We'll back with more news after this. A political row between China and the U.S. over pandas. Beijing wants the animals, which are on loan to the Washington National Zoo, returned. This could end 5 decades of cooperation. Fox News correspondent Jillian Turner has the story.
Pandas are my favorite animal, and I moved here for them, so I want to be able to say goodbye to them.
The 3 pandas living at Washington's National Zoo are the most famous and fluffiest Chinese ambassadors in America today.
Those pandas represented something dating back to the Nixon administration.
China first loaned giant pandas to the U.S. in 1972 to commemorate President Nixon's historic visit to the communist nation. Now they're going home. The agreement ends come December, and for the first time, China's declining to renew the deal. Some see it as a sign of just how icy U.S.-China relations have become.
The fact of the matter is, politics should not play a role in conservation. Animals don't recognize political boundaries.
Today, pandas live in 18 countries around the world, all on loan from China. The communist nation considers them national treasures. This panda cub is Xiao Qiji. He was born here at the National Zoo and is now 3 years old. Just a few weeks from now, he's going to be flown back to China along with his parents. Come December, the only remaining pandas in the U.S. will be at Atlanta Zoo, and they're slated to return to China in 2024. But experts say even that's now up in the air, given President Xi Jinping's increasing aggression.
You see it with the pandas, with his attacks on the dollar, even with his nuclear weapons. And frankly, the Communist Party of China just doesn't need to do panda diplomacy anymore.
As China recalls pandas around the world, just one country gets to keep the bears for the foreseeable future. That's Russia. During these pandas' last days on U.S. soil, conservationists are celebrating America's role in preserving their future.
What a conservation success story we've had with giant pandas. They've upgraded them from endangered to vulnerable.
At the National Zoo, Jillian Turner, Fox News.
Well, coming up, if you thought skydiving would be hard, imagine landing on something as small as an inflatable unicorn. We'll see how one man did just that. It's an astonishing feat of precision and courage that most of us will not get a chance to experience. Now, we're talking about, of course, jumping out of a plane to land on an inflatable unicorn. Jeannie Moose reports.
Here's a fantasy for you. Imagine dropping out of the sky and riding a unicorn. Hey girl, I'm coming for you! No wonder Jan Zackel has a new nickname.
Everybody calls me the unicorn man right now.
At a skydiving festival in England, this instructor at Skydive Langer jumped out of a plane at 6,000 feet, dangling his bare feet, ready to hit the slip and slide that you can barely make out down there. Swooping, they call this.
Yeah, girl, I'm coming for ya!
You have to have completed at least 200 jumps to compete in the unicorn riding contest.
Yeah!
Jan has around 2,400 jumps.
It's difficult because it's dangerous.
It took him 2 tries.
Hey, girl!
About 30 skydivers tried to mount the unicorn. Some came close, but what was a pain in the neck for the unicorn? Could be a pain in the crotch for the skydiver. I mean, it looks like you're coming in really fast.
Yeah, I think I'm doing like 60, 65 miles an hour.
We've seen a skydiver jump out of a plane riding a unicorn, but actually dropping in on one? The skydiver who does that is about as rare as a unicorn.
Coming for ya!
So are you mounting or dismounting the plane there? Confused. That's our time for tonight. Thanks for joining us. We'll leave you with video of a giraffe at the Maryland Zoo catching raindrops with its tongue. How great. Have a great night and an even better tomorrow.